the reality in virtual reality, those split-second decisions, the sheer raw ability. Don't let the simulation detract from the racing. This is racing. This is
FDSR.
and once again it's Thursday night, which means we're back. Final Drive Sim Racing is live, and we are coming to and bringing you some sprint race action this evening. 2 sprint races, in fact, around the beautiful setting and seaside resorts of Zandvoort in the Netherlands. So here we are, and we bring you, as usual, 2 races. So you'll have a quali session, race 1, reverse grid, random draw sort of situation for quali 2. Second race only 20 minutes long, with balance and, as I said, reverse grid in place for it. And your commentary team this week is myself, and I don't think Dougie's going to make it this week from what I understand, unless I'm mistaken. But we do have, as always, Mr. Aaron Markham with his beautiful insight and analysis. Aaron, welcome back to Final Drive Sim Racing. I just say back as if you've been away for 6 months or something, but you know, I'm just being polite, and you know, greetings and salutations and all that. So, how are we, my friend?
Good, very good. Looking forward to an exciting Zandvoort. This little beast is a tricky one to tame.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think we're already on race 4. I mean, next week we'll be halfway through the season, which seems a bit bonkers, really, doesn't it? It's gone so fast already this year, but we've had some cracking action this year. But this, I'm expecting, due to the nature of the circuit, to be close and tight with, I mean, maybe not lots of overtaking, but lots of really close, exciting action.
Yeah, we found on Tuesday that it's, especially when it comes to the guys who won't necessarily start at the front, you know, the reversal, it's going to be fun to try and get through the field. There's not many chances, and it's going to take a lot of weight in the men's genitalia area to pull off a move.
I mean, it's one of those where you've got to have such a delta revenue to be able to make an overtake stick, and unfortunately, from that respect, the field is quite close together, isn't it? I mean, there's usually a second and a half between the sort of top 15 drivers. So, what you're alluding to there is that real challenge that these guys are going to have. Is it any particular sections of the circuit you found tricky or difficult when you drove it on Tuesday?
The first sector, really, I struggled a little bit with, because I'm used to the banked version, and this is relatively flat in comparison. I struggled with Tarzan, and I suppose the reverse Tarzan, I think, is the loop. So just the hairpins, if you like, of the first sector. But
yeah,
other than that, it was actually fairly straightforward. The last corner is a little bit tricky as well, with it not being banked, but everything else was okay. And I tell you what, as well, I was about two and like maybe anywhere between 1 and 2 seconds off the pace, and the guys found it pretty hard to get past. The only way they could get past was on the start-finish straight, just because I was running max downforce. But even then, it's mega easy to defend if you've got a bit of a car underneath you on the straight. It's quite easy to force somebody offline and basically. Yeah, it's just going to be unbelievably hard. Even if the delta's up, we found that it was quite hard to get past.
Yeah, so I mean, what we're alluding to there, guys, is the fact that obviously you F1 fans out there will know that the circuit is banked in certain corners, and of course ACC runs the previous iteration of the circuit before those changes were made to bring Formula 1 back to Zandvoort, and that's the version that we're running, as Aaron said there, the much flatter version of the track. But that's what we got. That's the challenge the guys have got ahead of them, so we wish them good luck. But what we do have is a Drivers' Championship update from last week. So Kingston top of the championship. What's that? 48 points clear now, ahead of Evans. Foster bringing himself back into contention with a dominant victory last week now. He's ahead of Beerkhouse now. Very close for that third position, though, between Foster, Beerkhouse and Reed. But of course, as we've stated before, what you must remember is that drop scores are yet to kick in. So they'll kick in after next week's long endurance race. Everybody's worst round will be dropped, And if they do a worse round again, that one will be dropped, and the one that wasn't so bad in the end will get reinstated, and so on. But for those that have 0 points or next to no points, who've had bad rounds, people like Foster, Barnard, who missed the first week, for example, those people will come back into the championship and be able to be in contention for it. So it does give us that opportunity. So that is your Drivers' Championship. Teams' Championship looks as follows. South Coast still top now, pretty close between Dash and Rad for third place, and Baltec in second, kind of just in the middle ground there in no man's land as it stands. The power rankings, so this is a collection of everybody's poles, wins, podiums, and so on. Pole positions worth 2 points and all the others are worth 1. So Kingston ahead of Foster. Foster dragging himself right back into that with last week's racing now, so he's on 6. And the one I always find interesting, I don't know about you, Aaron, but I think this one gives a true reflection of how people's championships have gone so far. If you take the points out of it, is the positions gained and positions lost. With Dan Stevens there, but 20 positions gained so far this season. Kingston, unsurprisingly, with 18. But you look at Morris, Arnold, Foster, Mooney, kind of gives an impression of how bad their seasons have started, doesn't it, with how many positions they've lost. What that means is they've qualified well and ended poorly, which kind of, I like that as a visualization of how it's gone for people taking the points out of it.
It's almost like a form guide, isn't it? Like the qualifying's where everyone really should finish because that's their pace, and then this is the reality, and it's like you can almost see who's out of form in inverted commas and who's kind of having a stinker. But I suspect that positions gained, lost will look very different come the end of the season.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I mean, those with a net 0, I suppose will be reasonably pleased that they haven't really lost or gained much. But it gives heart to people like Dan. He doesn't qualify particularly well, but he certainly is consistent and makes his way up through the field as the race goes on. But there we go. That is that. So I'm excited for some really, really cool action. Qualifying will be with us in just a couple of minutes' time. I think it's about 8 minutes away, and we'll be into Quali 1, ready for the start of race 1. So was there a particular manufacturer that seemed better around you? We've seen, the opening race of the season seemed to suit the Merc. The Hondas come back into play then in later races. Was there a favourite around you when you raced here on Tuesday, Aaron?
Not particularly, no. I think it was just the usual suspects towards the front with Hondas and Ferraris, really. I think Wes was doing okay. There wasn't really any McLarens up there, but I mean, obviously the guy we're on board with now is not doing too bad in P6. Evans there, but yeah, just I'm surprised at the Mercedes because I think Lloyd was struggling a little bit, not hugely, not like Spa struggles, but seems to have turned it around a little bit, and Wellborn's really up there. So I think it's just the usual suspects of Japanese and German cars locking out the front. I thought, to be honest, I thought the Ferraris might have had a bit of a better showing with Morris and Barnard, but who knows? Maybe it could just be that guys are running slightly different practice programs, and we'll get a little bit of a different reflection come qualifying. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, it's unbelievably tight out there. I mean, you look at the difference. I mean, there's less than a second covering the top 16 drivers. Top 15, sorry. It's less than a second covering those guys. So it's... oh, no, that's the differences to each other. Oh, I've got it on the wrong one. I've got it on the wrong one. No, that's not the one either. I've pressed the wrong button. I thought it was that one. I thought it was session best relative, but okay. Unless there's been a software update and I'm losing the plot a bit. No, that is it, isn't it? No, it's not. The gaps are all over the place. Oh, Very strange.
No, it's not. It is, but I think it might just glitch for practice. I don't know.
Yeah, because it seems like the right one, as in, but
It seems to have sorted itself out a little bit.
Yeah, but it's to each other, not to the leader. Yeah, because there should be session best relative, quality personal best. Delta is what they So, sorry about this, folks. I'm just looking at so the current gap live is where they are to their current laps. Pit stop position delta. Personal best is their personal best lap. Yeah, so it should be session best relative, but it's not for some reason. It's glitching, as my colleague says. Not important. We'll plough through. I'll have a look at the actual times on the screen in front of me. So Adam Foster currently first world 135.7, and if we go down to 13th, Kevin DeHaan's a 136.8, so I'm nigh on a second between the top 13 then, if we look at it like that at the moment. So which is sort of what the screen says in front of us, but then it's got Scott Balseeley as being 1.4 seconds off the pace, but then he's not, so it's all a bit strange. But then he is, but according to this, his best session is actually half a second slower than Luke Barnard, yet he's ahead of him in the standings. Yeah, so it's definitely glitched out. My colleague is right. It is the correct setting, but it has glitched out. We got way sidetracked on that then, but I just wanted to make sure I'm giving everybody at home the best experience possible, seeing the data that they want to see, and it's decided to have a little bit of a paddy, much like when that guy glitched out and we had whoever was in fourth place was a million.
Eli Paul, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, everybody was a million seconds behind if they were in fourth place, weren't they? That was entertaining. But there we are. That's it's a live show, guys. It's never going to go perfectly, unfortunately. We do have a track map this week. I've added that in. I think that's quite a cool little thing to have. It just gives you an idea of where people are on the circuit, etc. And unfortunately it's not particularly big, but you can see there's just a little shade of colour around the driver, around the driver that we're looking at, and then other drivers will go yellow or whatever if they have an accident and such. So that is what is happening there. So we've also got some driver streams back this week as well. So we've got Foster live. Barnard, I don't believe, has gone live yet. No, it hasn't worked yet. Matty Heaton hasn't come up for some reason. There he is. I knew he existed. So Matty Heaton there as well. Mooney, he's out on track. Miller's we've got a camera for. And Morris. So more and more drivers getting involved in this as well. Hopefully we'll get Barnard's feed before the end of qualifying with any luck, and that way we'll be able to add that in as well. And don't forget, me and Aaron will be doing the live draw for whoever outside the top 5 drivers from race 1 can't qualify for race 2, which gives us a bit of involvement and a bit of excitement. But quali about to start then. I'm going to ask you for a bold prediction. We've got 25 drivers out there, believe it or not, on a very short, tight track. You can tell it's a short track because the lap times are only 1:35 as opposed to last week's 2 minutes 17. So a very short track this week. Give us a bold pole prediction, Aaron. Who are you going for?
Michael Mooney.
Michael Mooney for pole. Oh, that is bold. Bold that is.
He did have some good pace. He had some very good pace on Tuesday.
Well, we'll keep an eye on Mooney. There he is in his pink and grey and white Honda, just getting his setup refined. Nice to see that Jag back on the circuit this week. 25 drivers around you is going to be bonkers, isn't it, for that reverse grid? That is going to be absolutely insane. Kevin DeHaan's changed his livery, I've noticed. That, just to confuse me, just as I was getting used to his old one, he's gone and changed it, so that's fun. Maybe I think he's gone sort of Dutch colours by the look of it, and perhaps it's because it's the home race. They've given him special dispensation to have a special one-off livery, like Red Bull do. Or maybe he just likes the colours, and I'm talking absolute nonsense. Who knows? Hey, who knows? Quali has started then. There is just under 14 minutes on the clock, and let's have a look here. Who's going to be closest to start in a lap? I'm trying to look at where Foster is going to be the first. So what we'll do is, as he's about to cross the line, we'll jump on board, and Aaron can give us one of his usual track guides as we take a lap around with one of the faster guys on out there, and it will give us a good insight into the challenges that the drivers will be facing today. So let's jump on board with Foster. Aaron, take us away.
Cool, right, building up into Tarzan, into turn 1. Very tricky this, especially without the banking, so Adam taking a nice tight line there, doing pretty well, as you would expect. We build up now up into what I'm calling reverse Tarzan. Very easy for the car to run wide here, and he's almost on the exit curb, but takes another tight line. Yep, using a lot of the track down to first gear there, interestingly. But the rest of this part now is flat, and it's almost like a roller coaster. You're just holding on for dear life as you twist and wind up into the blind crest here. And it's a very quick a right-hand kink, and Adam able to find the apex there pretty nicely. Late braking after the bridge, another one here where you can be rewarded taking a lot of curb, but the curb can bite back just as hard. Down to first gear again. Very, very, very interesting to see Adam going all the way down into first there. But yeah, this part of the track very wide, lots of opportunities to take lots of different lines, and probably leading into the second overtaking chance. This is a tight right-left chicane that turns into a hairpin. Nice late braking there. Not taking much of the inside curb, it probably left a little bit of time there, bit of understeer, but focusing on the exit's more the main thing, and he's got a good exit there as we build up to the final part of the lap. So easy to slide wide into the gravel here, but he doesn't do that, and it's a pretty conservative lap I think for Adam, but nonetheless not too shabby. And we build onto the start straight again, and what's he going to cross the line for, Mike?
He's going to cross the line with a 35.9, so a decent lap there to open an account. Scott Balseely about 4/10 off, Barnard 7/10 off as it stands. So a decent opening lap there from Foster. Who else is on a lap right now? Let's have a look at Lloyd, see how Lloyd Reed is getting on in quali, and getting the grips with a new car. I don't think he's used the same car 2 seasons in a row, Lloyd, so he's a brave man, because we've commentator cursed him there as he's made a mistake and gone straight into the wall. So let's leave that one. This Morris very, very close there to Foster's time. Granted, as my colleague said, there may be a bit of time left out there for Foster, but still Morris getting very close, and in the Ferrari as well. So you said you expected the Ferraris to be a little bit quicker, and it looks like we might get that. And as we say that, you can see on your screen there, fastest lap has now been set by Wes Bakehouse, who is now up into provisional pole position. But we'll stick with Morris for the time being. He's up on his time, which would see him potentially go on to provisional pole position. Keeping an eye on all the drivers out there. Lots of drivers improving on their second laps, and that'll be the case when Aaron, as they get temperature into the tyres and the brakes and get more confidence, the track rubbers in, all these things just build, don't they, to a crescendo right at the end of the session.
Yeah, definitely. You want to be the last car on track, really, don't you, for the best conditions and the ultimate grip from the track being delivered all at the same time. And I suppose one of the risks that you don't have to worry about in ACC is a red flag of in proportion to stopping the session before you're even able to get that lap time in. So these guys can afford to time it perfectly, try and get a good gap in the traffic, and leave it as late as possible to deliver the goods.
Absolutely. Luke Barnard currently on provisional pole. Fantastic time from him with 35.8. Very marginally ahead of Foster by 5 thousandths, as you can see on your timing screens there, guys. But a little bit of a surprise. I mean, like I say, he's getting to grips with the world. He's told us several times he's struggling under braking, and a couple of the other little nuances that are different to PlayStation gaming. So great to see him top in the timing sheets. I'm not sure he's going to stay there because Foster's currently on a purple lap. let's jump on with Kingston, the current championship leader. He's improving on his time at the moment, but that any of these drivers could be on the verge of pole position with the amount they up. Kingston currently up by half a second on his time, but Foster also up by half a second on his time, which will keep him obviously ahead. But it's all to and fro out there. There's so much going on, isn't there? It's still plenty of time to go, and I think we're going to see lots of changes for this pole position before the session is out. So Foster with a 35.4 there. That's giving him a reasonable gap now, reasonable margin. Kingston has lost a fair amount of time behind this Jaguar, which I'm sure he'll be frustrated with. Foster and Barnard are now into the pits. We'll stick with Kingston because he will improve on his time, but I don't think by the amount he would have been hoping for, due to being held up a little bit by the Jag. But these cars are all on hot laps. You've got to give yourself space. It's not up to anybody else to give you space, is it, Aaron? He's got to work for his space.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's we've been having this discussion in the touring car league of running isolate. We run isolated qualifying, so there's no such thing as traffic. But it brings, I think, a few of the guys were saying, and I have to agree, it brings in a bit of a skill element, trying to find that gap in the track, and ultimately, timing that hot lap to perfection, and even tactics, such as slipstream and little benefits like that. I think having a group qualifying, and like you were alluding to there, just guys having to find their own spaces, I think it adds a little bit of an extra element of skill, which we don't get to see on a Wednesday night, but we get to see it a lot here, and it's interesting, really, especially on a track so small. You kind of almost scrounging around for space. It's quite difficult to find some. Yeah,
absolutely. Very, very true. And I'm not sure is it an option on Race Room to do it? I can't remember.
Yeah, it is.
So you can. It's optional to do it as an isolated session.
Yeah, I think you can do qualifying unisolated. I definitely need to confirm that, but I'm fairly sure you can.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be interesting to try it, and see how it works, because, like you say, it certainly adds another element of skill to it, and what you won't get then is the time trial wizards, just all being at the front all the time, because it adds that bit of jeopardy into it, doesn't it? But anyway, we digress as we always do in these little chats and get off topic. What we have got is 6 minutes left of the qualifying session we're in. Foster still leading with a 35.4. Barnard in second with a 35.6. I think it's clear that Luke's been putting the work in and getting himself up to speed, which is absolutely fantastic to see. He doesn't appear to have gone live, which is a bit of a shame, because it would be good to get his onboards for the race, but that looks like that is not going to be an option. Anyway, once again, we digress. Morrison in third. I mean, that's great to see a different top three up there, isn't it? I'm sure Ballast probably playing its part a little bit for some of the guys towards the top of the championship, such as Kingston. On a short, tight, twisty circuit like this, Ballast is going to be a killer for these guys, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not quite as spread out as Spa, isn't it? So trying to find 2/10 at Spa is quite easy on a track where there's so much time and there's so many different areas to gain that back. Whereas here it's kind of one setup, one type of corner, one type of way of driving, and trying to find those tiny improvements in the time, especially with ballast, it's just going to be so difficult. And so you're so limited in the ways you can try and find that time as well. I think, I think the reason why the gaps are so close is because of the nature of the track, and the fact that it's quite easy to learn. It's probably on the scale of 1 to 10, 1 being easy and 10 being impossibly hard. It's probably about a 5. So a lot of these guys have driven it before, which also adds into the element of everyone being close together. So all those factors, coupled with the guys who've got ballast, it suddenly feels like a bit more of a challenge on a seemingly easier track to try and gain that time back.
Yeah, I agree. Just looking down some of the timing sheets here. Credit to Rich Arnold, currently in 11th. Matt Heaton currently in 12th. ahead of Tonks and Dehaan. They both appear to be struggling on their home track, which is unusual to see. But down in 14th and 15th place for those two at the moment, which is a surprise. Somebody's just jumped way up the order. I'm not sure who it is, but someone has, because everybody's gone down one, but I didn't see who it was, unfortunately, but that's a shame. So Kingston in 5th at the moment then, so we're doing a good job with maximum ballast, so that will be hindering him, of course, but he's doing a very, very good job of keeping himself scoring a high amount of points. Josh Evans back with us, and he is in 6th at the moment. That's kind of been about his pace. He had a very good second race, obviously race win a couple of weeks ago, but that's been about his pace really, isn't it? Sort of top end of the best of the rest sort of situation.
Yeah, and I tell you what, credit as well, he's been arguably the fastest of all the McLarens this season. I don't think, well, to be honest, there's only really Josh and Dan running the McLarens, isn't there? So I think with the way that the balance of performance updates have gone and various other bits and bobs, I think that's actually a really good effort in the McLaren. Well, I mean, I know it's no slouch of a car anyway, but it's certainly been nerfed back from what we were used to in the earlier seasons of FDSR. I mean, when Adam was in it, it almost looked unbeatable at some tracks, but I think, I think it's a very valiant effort, and I'd love to know what he'd be like in a Ferrari or a Honda this year.
Yeah, it's one of the frustrations I have with this game is it you know, you can easily pick the wrong car and all of a sudden you're out of a championship, you know, just because of the way they change the balance of performance, and even just nuanced at individual tracks and things. There can be upgrades and changes, and I know things need to be kept, you know, interesting and stuff, but at the same time, you know, it's just really frustrating. You know, you can pick a car, like, you know, we dropped the Honda for this season and went to the Porsche for the Sprint Series as Foster sets an even quicker lap again. And all of a sudden the Porsche is garbage and the Honda's one of the best cars out there. It's just, you know, but it can ruin championships, you know, and it is frustrating that there's constantly a different car that's best. And I guess what I'm saying is, rather than having a car that's best and, you know, then it ends up being the worst after they change it and everybody swaps around, why don't they just make them all exactly equal?
Yeah, just have a shell. You could easily just have the shell of the car and have a setting where you've got equal performance on everything, and then it takes out the equation of, you know, a driver. I suppose I'm trying to say, like, someone being able to say, oh, it's just the car and that's why you've won, not just because of the ability of the driver. And on the F1 game, as much as I can be its biggest critic, you do have the option to set an equal field, so you have the cars look like they do for the season, but everyone's in equal machinery.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you end up with the best driver winning instead of the best driver car combo, which is what you're saying can happen with the way that this game works.
Yeah, it can, and it can go the other way though. Sometimes, you know, really good drivers pick the wrong car because it's brilliant, and then by the time the season starts, they've updated it again, and all of a sudden it's the worst car on the grid, and that's the bit that I find frustrating. But anyway, we are out of time. Quali has ended, so Foster is still on provisional pole at the moment by a tenth and a half. Morris is out of it. Mooney is not going to improve on his time. Bakehouse is still going around. He could improve on his time to challenge for pole position. We will see about that. Thomas Denman currently showing us flashing purple, so he's on the verge of going to pole position from all the way down in 18th. Let's see if he can pull it off in the Ferrari. I don't know if it's a glitch or if he's just having the lap of his life, but we will find out very, very shortly, I'm sure.
Ooh, the anticipation.
There's a lot.
I'm a little bit nervous here.
There's a lot of the saying that the deltas are 32.7 for all the drivers out there. So I'm wondering if there is a bit of a glitch. But it is flashing purple, so we'll just stick with it a moment and see what happens. He must be up on his time, otherwise I'm sure he wouldn't be bothering to finish the lap. Kingston comes home in 6th, and Denver.
He's moved up the yard, but he's gone to 12th.
He's gone to 12th, yeah. Good lap, really good lap, yeah. Not, sorry, we sounded a little underwhelmed there, but I think that's because it kind of told us it was going to be a pole lap, but yeah, just a little glitch in the software there. I think they have updated it recently, and there's a few little gremlins in there, which is a shame. But there we go, and that is your quali for then. So we've got Foster on pole position, Morris second, Mooney third, Bakehouse fourth, Kingston down in fifth. Like I said, would be difficult around here in that car with the ballast. Scott Balseeley in sixth, good quality from him. Barnard in seventh in the end, second for so long, but just others just caught him towards the end there. Kevin DeHaan eighth, Lloyd Reed ninth, and Josh Evans rounding out the top 10. Wellborn down in 11th, he looked really strong, really strong at times, but just not able to hook it up, and finds himself just outside the top 10. And Denman we saw towards the end there, getting a good lap in to get himself up to 12th. Humphreys 13th, Arnold 14th, Matty Heaton 15th in the end. Big surprise to see Bartonks down there in 16th place. Tickner in 17th, Millers in 18th, Alan Davis in 19th. And that's all we can see on the screen for a minute, so we'll leave it there. There are six other drivers out there as well. So who have we got with us today?
We have two drivers. We have the usual suspects. Rich joined first and then followed by Adam, so we'll speak to Rich first.
That was more by proxy, to be fair, gents. I had a shocking last lap, so I thought, well, I might as well come and sit in your comms office for a bit.
Fair enough, mate. Fair enough. P14 in a track that's pretty challenging to overtake on. Are you just going to sit back and let the carnage unfold in front of you, or are you going to go on the attack and try and get past Humphreys and Denman early on and try?
I think I need to have a bit of a reset this season. It's not been. Whether it's by luck or by judgment, it's been a bit of a tough one, and I think most of my issues have come from sort of pushing too hard, if you like. So I think I need to take it easy a little bit and try and just keep it on the black stuff. But round here, it's a tough one to overtake, isn't it? It's a funny old track. There's not going to be much in the way of fantastic racing moves, I wouldn't have thought. So any positions gained are probably going to come from mistakes ahead of me. But
yeah,
my main plan is keep on the black stuff. You know, I need to start getting some consistency in the season because it's not been the greatest start. So that is my plan. Try and take it easy. Take a leave out of Allenswood.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Whether it works like that is another question, but we'll see.
Well, I suppose that leads perfectly on to Adam. Another pole position.
Yes.
Looked probably as comfortable, even though the timing screens I know show it close, but in reality on a track like this that was a fairly decent gap back to Morris there, so I suppose rinse and repeat, wash the clothes, hang them out to dry and go again.
I hope so. Not done a full 40 minutes on these tyres, so I reckon about 25 minutes in they're going to start dying quite heavily.
That front left was taking a beating, wasn't it?
My front rear left as well.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. These guys behind are rapid as well. But
yeah.
With ballast on board as well.
That's the other thing, isn't it? You can't really afford to slacken off and try and bring the tyre back in because you know that those two behind you will just pounce.
Yeah. It's virtually impossible to overtake, as you witnessed on Tuesday.
Yeah.
Unless someone makes a mistake or someone gets nervous, goes a bit deep, there's not really much you can do.
Yeah, I mean, even with alternating lines, it was the best you got was alongside someone's D pillar, and even then, it's just not worth the lunge, was it?
No, that's it. Yeah, it's so. Get the replay button ready. I don't think you're going to need the graphics today.
It's a bit of a relentless circuit, this one, isn't it? Complete opposite to Spa, where you've got those long straights, you've got time to sit back and breathe. This is the complete opposite in there. It's just corner after corner after corner.
Yeah.
So it's a very different challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like I said to the guys earlier, there's no thinking time apart from 15 seconds down the main straight, not 10 seconds down the main straight. So there's no there's no other straight bits in this track.
No, indeed. Well, good luck, and we'll speak
Cheers,
to you
mate.
in 40 minutes.
Nice one. Cheers.
Cheers to the boys, as always, for joining us. So, you called Mooney's a surprise pole. Not far off, you know. Third place, really showing really strong pace. He struggled for consistency, speaking of that, and around here, I think, you know, the guys are alluding to there, aren't they? And it's going to be more important than ever for consistency.
Yeah, I feel like this is probably a track where it's kind of... I'll tell you what, Mike, I'll let you lead the start away, and we'll come back to it, just because I've got a long point to talk about on that one.
We like a long point. I've checked the back of my chair as well, by the way. There is no mobile phones on the back of my chair, so we're good to go. And it is green light for flat to the floor, and it's a very short run down to the first corner, as you can see there. And already the Honda and the Ferrari are getting a little bit feisty, but Beerkaus are also getting feisty as he tries to make his way through up into the podium positions. But Mooney's managed to hold him off there after trying to make a move. Oh, I think Mooney's gone a little bit wide.
Mooney's round!
Mooney has gone round. We just spoke about it, and he's already gone round. And I can't find him to take a look at the replay.
He's took Wes with him as well.
Let's pop back and see if we can see what happens. Here he is. Wes. Oh, I wonder whether Wes caught him. I wonder whether Wes caught him through that. Because it was a strange place to lose the car. I assumed he'd gone wide onto the grass, and that is what caused it. But that wasn't the case.
I tell you what, Mike, it's fantastically easy to do that on cold tyres. You'd be very surprised how many times I nearly binned it in the Porsche.
Yeah. So what number is because Balseely up in third now, battling away with Kingston. Kingston licking his lips now with an opportunity to make an overtake stick. He's on the inside as well, and he gets himself up ahead of Balseely. And as they go into chicane, he's hit the curb.
Wide.
He's hit the curb way too hard, bounced the car up in the air, and he's going to lose a couple of positions for that now, and find himself probably down in 6th or 7th at the end of all of this carnage. And there he is, 7th place, and under pressure from Dehaan as well. So it's all happening out there. Evans challenging Balseely now. Balseely having to take it easy through the chicane. Oh, there's a car off in the background. I think it's Denman in the McLaren has gone into the pit lane. Again, we don't quite know what happened there. Let's take a look and see.
It's all happening on lap one.
It's all happening on lap one, but it's all the wrong stuff, unfortunately. Saxon's to Denman just getting a little bit wide there, and he tried to keep his foot in, and the Audi of Humphreys did really well to avoid that accident, in fairness. Very, very well indeed, but a shame there for Denman. The young Welshman just not quite having it hooked up there. Notice Barnard's all the way down his 16th as well, so I think he's had an adventure on the opening stint there. So the only person not having any adventures being our leader, Adam Foster, who's out in front. 1.2 seconds ahead of Morris, and then Balseely dropping back off them now in the number 85 HRC Honda, holding up and battling away with Evans and Reed and Wellborn. I think this is going to be our battle today, but you see all those gaps. I haven't changed it to gaps. Apologies. There we go. Race gaps. You've got them. We now have race gaps. They're all orange or red, apart from the Balseely to Morris one. So it is still remaining to be super close out there in the opening stages of this race so far. So, I mean, you've just got to keep the pressure on everyone. And as we've been saying, it's so difficult to overtake. Pressure is all that is going to force a mistake and allow you to make an overtake.
Yeah, 100%. One thing we found as well on Tuesday was the difficulty of keeping that front left in the window of operation, because as soon as the car lost that ability, it basically lost the ability to corner in turn one, which opened up a lot of overtaking moves. I think in the first race I had a stock setup, and the amount of times that I found I just could not make turn one, and I was just understeer wide, and you carry that all the way through into 2 and into 3, because 3's another left-hander. Keeping that left front alive, even though we were saying how difficult it is to overtake, all it takes is for someone to be pushing too hard and murder those front left tyres. And moves are on. Moves are definitely on, especially into turn 1, and especially out of the last turn as well, where you kind of end up having to lift to save the tyre, and you get a poor exit, or that's what I was finding anyway. So interesting to see, and interesting to hear that Adam was struggling with the rear left as well, because even in the Porsche I was totally fine with the rear tyres. It was only the fronts that were struggling. So
yeah, I think that's
keen
probably
to
a characteristic of the Honda.
Yeah, keen to see how that goes, but I think Scott's got his mirrors full, but I doubt he'll be sweating too much just now because of just how difficult it is, like we were saying, to get past.
Yeah,
back to the difficulty of overtaking.
Took very different lines through that penultimate corner as well, so it'll be interesting to see how that develops, whether Evans is trying different things, trying to get that slingshot to just give him the opportunity to be later on the brakes into turn 1, but he is having to go around the outside. He's not shy. Oh, but he's run really wide there and got really lucky. But he did come alongside. He tried to go around the outside. Probably just attempting more than anything just to put some pressure on and make it difficult for Scott. You know, probably not actually looking to make an overtake stick through there more than anything, just looking to have some fun. It shows that Humphries has made a position up, so we'll just see if we can grab that on the replay. Let's have a look. So this was Humphries going down into the first corner. Unfortunately, the move was done just before the replay button was in play, but he did make a move down into the first corner, so there we go. That proves it can be done, should you be so inclined, down into turn 1. If you can force the driver wide, as you said, it does give you the chance, and Humphries proving the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So back then to this battle for third place. So we've got Balseely currently in third. He's under pressure from Evans, who's under pressure from Reed, who's under pressure from Wellborn, who's under pressure from Kingston, and then there's a little bit of a gap down to Ash Humphries, who I suspect it won't be long and he'll be on the back of them as well.
Oh, we could see a move here. I think Wellborn had a terrible run under the back straight there. Slipstream might save him, but Kingston definitely going to be having a look up the inside. Or maybe he's even... Nah, he's not close. I thought he might have had a little bit of a better run.
It seemed like he was a bit closer than that, but it's not quite worked out that way, which is a shame. But there we go. It is what it is, and it's not what it's not. If we're down onto the front split of the you can see just how close the guys get to the car in front, and they're able to race that closely without making contact. Fantastic to see.
I'll tell you what, Mike, on the outside of that hairpin, the line is almost it's beneficial to take a V to get a better exit, but the amount of marbles that build up on the outside, you get so much debris on the tyres, it actually ruins the run through the rest of the corners. It's such a weird corner. You end up having to drive in a way that almost feels a little bit alien. You kind of have to hook the inside, and it doesn't feel right. Oh, Kingston might have a sniff here up the inside. This could be close. He's going to have to go around the outside into the chicane. This is going to be tight. This is going to be a really, really brave move if he pulls it off. Thinking about the championship, he's thought better of it. That's a very, very, very clever decision, I think, from Alex Kingston there. He knows that he's got bigger fish to fry, and he keeps behind Wellborn for P7.
He does, and yeah, you know, you've got to make your presence known, haven't you? But also not make any stupid decisions or silly moves that are going to cost you. But just jumped on board there on the screen with Matty Heaton as well, as he battles away with Rich Arnold. They're currently battling away for 11th position, and just keeping an eye on the other battles that we have available to us. Unfortunately, Mooney is now nowhere after his accident early on. Beercoast right on the back as well, as they made contact with each other. Miller's currently in 16th position. He's doing quite well there. And we'll also keep an eye on Morris as well. And if that battle for the lead gets close, we can jump on board with Morris One person there's definitely no point in jumping on board with is Adam Foster, because all he's got in front of him is thin air. And that's not exactly entertaining to watch. But we will keep an eye on it. But in race 2, that camera is going to be probably quite active, I would imagine, as he fights his way through the field, or at least attempts to, with a 25 car grid on a tight track. As we've said, that is going to be quite a task for race 2, and only a 20-minute race as well, so not a lot of time to get that done. So we are currently watching Evans as he battles away with Balseely for third place. That is still the case. Reed still behind him. I mean, is it almost a case of you can't afford to even think about looking in your mirrors in these situations, because you know the field is going to be close together, don't you? So you've just got to look forward and concentrate on the car in front of you.
Yeah, as long as I ended up nailing the braking zones, no one was really going to be having a look at me unless I was drastically slower. And it kind of makes you... It's almost like the best form of defence, really, because you end up just driving to your ability instead of driving off what the car's doing behind you. Everybody ends up sort of lapping with a similar pace, and you get these close formations, which are great to watch, and everyone's really just driving to the maximum of their ability. There's no silly defending, there's no staring in mirrors, it's just every single person nailing their line and, I suppose, getting the best lap out of the car.
Yeah, absolutely. See Evans putting super pressure now on that Honda, the pristine white Honda of Scott Balseely, but to no avail. Again, as we've said, very, very difficult, and you can see they're really bunching up now. Reed really closing that gap. Wellborn's dropped off a little bit when he's been fighting with Kingston behind, but even Kingston, with all his talent, with ballast around this track, and just stuck there in 7th place, unable to make any progress at all, which is a shame. Keeping an eye on Darren Tickner here, his gap. He's in the top 10. Good showing from him so far, and battling away with Dahan. There's been a move, apparently, by Barnard to get past Millers, and once again, the replay's missed it. The replay's not my friend today, because it's missed 2 overtakes so far, which is very, very frustrating, but it's missed them. Nothing we can do about it. Rich Arnold then on the back of Tickner, back to this battle, and so Tickner battling away with Dahan, Arnold battling away with Tickner, Heaton battling away with Arnold, so it's close right through the field. Sorry, the camera keeps jumping back to the previous car for some reason. But yeah, we'll keep an eye on things, and hopefully we'll catch some of these overtakes, but unfortunately we're seeing them a little bit late at times, which is a shame. But we're keeping an eye on that back or in the corner as well through Heaton's camera, and trying to get as much action as we can as we go through. So where are we now? Still a bit of a gap out in front, but Foster not able to drop Morris at some of that, we suspect, from what you're saying there, Aaron. Probably him protecting his tyres at this point, you'd say?
Yeah, it feels that way. I feel like that's probably the reason why we're not seeing cars dramatically catch up or fall behind. I feel like everyone's in the same boat. It feels like there is a delta to do to get the tyres to the end of the race. Otherwise, I mean, Adam's just done a 35.9, which seems a little bit too quick, actually. I think anybody below the 36s is kind of pushing the car a little bit too much. Yeah, I think the race will start to come back to certain people by the 20-minute, 25-minute mark. I know we've got 25 minutes left. I should say the 15-minute mark. I think with 20 minutes to go, we'll start to see a couple of the cars like the Honda start to fade a little bit on the tyres, and we might see someone like Morris start to reel Foster back in. We could see Oh, Evans has finally got past Balseely. I was about to say we could see Evans jump Balseely. That looks like it was a little bit of a mistake. And Lloyd Reed could be about to go up the inside as well.
So here we go. We are going to see an overtake. Wahey. Sorry, the replays actually worked this time. And it was a mistake. It was a mistake. He went way off the track through there. And they were very lucky not to make contact. But Evans has got his way through. Balseely's gone off. Balseely's had a spin. Then after that, he's had a spin. And it's gone from bad to worst for him. And that is the end of that one for Scott Balseely. And down the order he goes, down in 13th position now. So Evans up onto the podium, and great showing from him. Yeah, what I was going to say is before Scott rudely interrupted us with action, how dare he, was that although we're saying Foster may be sort of preserving his tyres, Morris's last lap was only half of a tenth slower than Foster's fastest lap of the race, and they both in 9 laps had gained 6 seconds ahead of Balseely, so they're both clearly making really good progress to even pull away from the cars behind. So I think they are pushing each other. I don't think there's much in terms of preservation at this point, but what we do have then is Foster in first, Morris in second, and now Josh Evans up onto the podium and in third place. But a long way to go, still 24 and a half minutes to go of this race. So Lloyd Reed's job now to try and close up and put pressure on the young Welshman of Josh Evans. Lloyd Reed himself will soon be under pressure from Wellborn, and Kingston still there, sat behind him, but of course a position higher now. We've seen Scott Balseely drop down to 13th, but that puts Ash Humphreys, who's just kind of kept himself to himself, did well to avoid that accident early on, and he's kept his nose clean and got himself up into 7th as it stands. Kevin DeHaan up to 8th now, Tickner in 9th, and Arnold in 10th. And as you can see on your screens there, Matt Heaty in 11th. Matt Heaton, sorry, not Matt Heaty. I think I was thinking Matty, and then I said Heaty. I'm only human at the end of the day. Chasing down Arnold to break himself into the top 10. So we will see how that goes. Just to give you a slightly different view, to see how it looks for Morris. That's how tantalisingly close that Honda is. It will be interesting to see in the latter part, that last 10 minutes, if tyres start to fade on certain manufacturers. We will see